Hola, des amigos, por favor, Raising Reality National Anthem reaction video. Haha! And welcome indeed, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another National Anthem reaction video, and to possibly one of my, certainly one that's been a little bit on the back burner for a while now, but one that is, well, definitely better late than never, Mexico. Now, for point of reference, I have been to Mexico before, but again, if we're going on the verge of the map, we're sort of talking a little bit more sort of like roundabout down here. So we're sort of talking from the Yucatan Peninsula, or yeah, I'm pretty sure it must have been around this area because it was just like a very small little a little resort in which I actually managed to go swimming with dolphins, and it was the very first time I ever visited delicatessen, as they would say in Mexico. And it wasn't the most interesting thing that I ever saw inside that is we bought a selection of make it your own rum cake. I didn't particularly remember if I've ever had any rum cake before, but I'll make sure if I ever go back to the Yucatan Peninsula, I will definitely have some rum cake there. But sort of talking a little bit more broadly about Mexico, there's so many things that, if you were to bring up Mexico to me, there were so many things, again, I just would know, I wouldn't even know where to begin, but for the sake of brevity, let's just say we do, because for one, the Spanish language, which Espanol is a great language in itself. I love the Spanish languages, and certainly when it comes to going into things like Mexico, there's certainly going to be, I think it would be a great way to get involved. And again, we're talking about a nation that has over 126 million people. So I imagine it wouldn't be particularly very difficult to find friends in Mexico as it would be to find friends in Spain, or if based on some of my other national anthem videos go, it wouldn't particularly be very difficult to find friends in Argentina or Venezuela or Colombia or even Brazil and even Bolivia, Chile, and Uruguay. I don't particularly think we would find anything difficult at all. And then, of course, you've got the artistry. You've got some of again, you're talking about things like Day of the... I mean, if I could just like pull this out for 1 second... You got such things as like Day of the Dead, which if you just put up on this can of Monster Energy, just the art, just the colors and the way everything dances and everything looks so vibrant and exciting. It looks like, and again, Day of the Dead, you could call it what you will, but one thing that like, I'm sorry, I'm sort of like a little bit over exasperated right now because there's so many things that I just want to know. I mean, what's the fascination about having skulls as a centerpiece for things like Day of the Dead? I mean, you could probably argue pretty easily that's meant to represent the dead, about what a human looks like at its most base form would probably be the image of a skull. And then, but then there's just the fact that people take it so far. I mean, I've got like little books somewhere that I literally stuck all over with Mexican designed skulls. And I must say, it looks stunning as well, from the stars, the roses, the picture of the eagle eating the snake on the cactus. It is, I think almost from an artistic point of view, Mexico has some of the best colors, some of the best vibrant, intricate patterns, layouts. It's, you know immediately what it's supposed to be just from observing it. And I think that's like one of the big things is just you can recognize so much about a country, about a place through its artistry, its food as well. I want to just give you an idea of like Mexican cuisine, because you got fish tacos, tamales, chimichangas, burritos, Yucatan, chili rellenos, queso palpilla, queso chihuahua, tortillas. The list goes on and on and on. And again, even for someone like me who isn't like the biggest fan of spicy food in the world, I will say as well, you get things like, churros as well. But again, I would be more than willing to go out of my way to try a lot more of Mexican food, just because it's presented it's beautifully presented, and you bite into it and it just explodes in flavor and catches some of the densest, the most inexhaustible heat from the very centers of Mexico City, or from even further down. It just looks beautiful, and it tastes as good as it looks. And again, all this discussion about Mexican food, and just Mexico is like the capital of vibrance, color, life, music, song, dance. There are so many. Again, it is such a beautiful and vast nation of culture, and it's shown in how much it's traveled all the way across the world, and how many things you could just recognize from an instance just looking everywhere. It is breathtaking, and it's almost making my mouth just water over, because again, look at all the variations of candy as well. And I've seen some of these before in like Latin American shops, and look at all of this. It's absolutely everywhere. And again, it would be it would be a very interesting experiment to find out what the variation this would be from something like we get in the UK, but it would be worth trying. It's certainly something I've always considered for a very long time, is to just taste things from all over the world as well, because how can you possibly go wrong? And another thing you can't really go wrong on is Mexican music. I will have you guys know, and this is like a very interesting thing that I discovered 4 years ago, is that when I first got my very first iPhone, I downloaded an album. It was it was basically songs celebrating. I think it was like called Quinceañera something. But basically, it was a collection of some of Mexico's most well-known tracks, from La Trompetas del Diablo, Sway, which was a very Mexican-inspired song, but it was sung by Rosemary Clooney. And again, no, listen. One thing I'm going to have to specify very, very seriously about this before we go any further. If I was to devote like an entire week specifically to Mexican music, what would you guys say to that? Because Mexico's history and diversity, from its food, its art, its music, its language, yes, Spanish, but it's the way you say it as well. And then of course you got palaces and temples, probably, you know what I mean? It is overwhelmingly beautiful, and I don't even know where to start, where to think about going to. And I reckon, honestly, just I know, again, there is something of like a large forgetting about things like crime just for a second in Mexico, because Mexico is no short of crime whatsoever. Let's be honest about that. However, it's got to be nowhere in comparison to the people who just get on with their lives. You know what I mean? It can't be. You know what? I reckon, again, things like that just get blown up all the time. And actually, if you want to just get along with people, then that's fine. Is that who just goes out there and causes trouble with people for no reason? It's the sort of thing that doesn't make sense. But then again, look how beautiful. There's just how who wouldn't love this? It's beautiful. I must say that. And again, if there's anybody from Mexico happy to be watching this, well, to be fair, there's very few negative things I've ever had to really say about a lot of the Latin American countries. Well, technically Mexico is North American, but the case in point is that I'm actually kind of a little bit blown away just from the warm reception, the environment, the landscape, the food, the culture, the friendliness of its people, it's their generosity. It's the sort of thing I can't really talk about with any of these national anthems, especially from the South Americans, because when the time comes, and I certainly do want to visit like the whole of South America, I reckon it's just, I want to see more. I want to see it with my own eyes. That would be fantastic. I will take a lot of time out to learn the language, to learn Portuguese, to learn, learn Spanish through and through, because it's gotta be an experience. It's gotta be an adventure. That's what it's gonna be. Eating chimichangas and tamales and steak burritos all down the Yucatan Peninsula, and dreaming of whole choirs in black mantillas singing and praising the world. That sort of thing, just pictures and ideas of like idolizing Mexico in such a way that you can't see anywhere else. And with all that being said today, please rise, ladies and gentlemen, for the national anthem of Mexico. El himno nacional mexicano.
Niñas con sangre se
certainly one of the longer national anthems we've certainly done on this channel, ladies and gentlemen. And you know, one of the reasons why I've always come to appreciate things like this, because the descriptions of like bloodshed and the destruction of all foreign invaders aside, it's not necessarily about, you know, conquest or about plans to take over the world. It's more to do with the fact that you've got to be ready to fight for your home. You've got to be ready to die and fight for your brothers and sisters. That's what really the message is about. It's to be ready for the steel and bridle. It's almost like, again, sort of like similar to how Le Marseillaise was written during times of revolution and about the expulsion of the likes of Louis XVI. I almost wonder if this was almost written during the time of the Alamo, or when Mexico was leading its way towards its independence in 1821, which I think was during the... I'm going to do a little quick check about when the Alamo was. Let's see. Battle of the Alamo was in 1836, so about 15 years after the independence was. But then again, I suppose conflicts between Mexico and things like Texas, Arizona, and Southern California would have all come into effect as well. At dawn on the March of 6, 1836, the 13th day of the siege, the Battle of the Alamo commenced. Fighting lasted roughly 90 minutes, and by daybreak, all the defenders had perished, including former Congressman from Tennessee, David Crockett. The loss of the garrison was felt all over Texas, even the world. Which, again, it probably, again, would make sense that it was... Was it technically that the Mexicans were fighting against the Americans? It probably would be the case because, again, one thing you've got to bear this in mind is the fact that it was sort of the Americans that were coming over to push a lot of Mexicans from, again, we're talking likes of from like just west of Texas all the way down to what would be officially known as like the state. Right, okay, what would be like the state border between, you know, the US and Mexico. But again, this might be more sorts of things I would sort of like want to discover and go into more depth in when it comes to the translation for this video, because again, it should help keep things be a bit more centralized, a little bit more focused, and of course, learning the language all over again is going to be an exciting time in itself. So anyway, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this reaction video to Himno Nacional Mexicano. Please make sure to leave all your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. We want to know what you guys felt of Mexico's national anthem for yourselves. And I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care and bye for now. Por favor.